This podcast is recorded on Aboriginal land. We pay our respects to elders past and present and recognise that sovereignty was never ceded. Welcome back to the Radical Online Leftist Pipeline podcast. My name's Mitch Alexander.
My name's Tom Tanuki.
I'm Jordan Vandenlam.
Otherwise known as Purple Pingies. You threw me off. You always say Purple Pingies. Joining us today, though, we have a very special guest, our first guest as well, freelance photojournalist based in Melbourne, Alex Zucco. Thank you so much for coming on the pod.
Hello. Yes, thank you for having me.
So ostensibly, we've got you on to the pod today to talk about something that you were doing on Invasion Day, just gone. And you did tell us about a minute before we started recording that it turns out what you were taking photos of was actually a bit shit because of everything that happened with the people that were there and the letdown that it was. So let's prime listeners to talk about the fact that, like, if it seems like maybe we're getting into some heady or like heavy territory, maybe it's going to get a bit dark. It's fucking not. The gronks you were taking photos of sucked and they fucked their big day. So thank you for coming on to talk about it.
Happy to be here.
I'm excited. This is a beautiful thing we're going to talk about. But I suppose we're going to talk about a wealth of positive news coming out of that day.
Yeah, 100%.
What was the... We've got apologies for Celeste, don't we?
Yes. Celeste is out on assignment today after being a major player in organising the Invasion Day rally here in Naarm, and after leading from the front. There were some fucking amazing photos. After leading from the front from an Invasion Day rally that she organised, and after giving us shit on this very pod, and even in promo material used for this pod, giving me and Tom and Jordan shit for potentially looking out for sunburn on Invasion Day, Celeste is out because she got fucking sunburn.
Yeah, and none of us is sunburned either.
Daring to shame me for my pasty, translucent white skin.
I believe it was, you described it as Gollum looking.
I did actually, didn't I? I did the shaming. I was the one who did the shaming. Well, look, turns out that Melbourne sun is stronger than all of us,
Yeah, I didn't get sunburn, and that's because I was in 3 different types of sunscreen with a long sleeve, long pants, and a custom-made bucket hat for my huge head. So,
balaclava, parasol,
I nearly passed
gloves.
Out. Yeah, I had my all black outfit, my big Australian flag, my big Australian umbrella. Alex, you took some photos of me, actually. I was looking quite dapper.
It was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, you were the guy next to Blair Cottrell. Right.
But so, like, the most people I think that listen to this would have seen the amazing photos coming out of Naarm Invasion Day, a couple of the other stuff that was going on. But just for, like, Pingers, you and I were there, the vibe was great. The vibe was, like, in parts, like, it was compelling, it was poignant, it was funny, it was angry, it was sort of everything that you need those things to be. It was very fucking energizing, I feel. The vibes were good, from at least from my point of view. And it was huge. I know Celeste was messaging us at the time being like, this is the biggest opening crowd. Like the people there at 10 a.m. crowd is the biggest that she'd seen in however long might be the biggest. Yeah. And it just continued to grow. It was really good. So my personal review, 5 stars in the Invasion Day. It was fucking sick.
Damn right. Special mention to Celeste for being up there, like, while the speeches were going on, talking to us, telling us, like, giving us updates on the speakers and how big it was and whatever. And also, we were all getting notifications at the same time because Celeste was fighting with racists in Instagram comments that we were all tagged in while she's standing, like, on the stage bit next to all the speakers and stuff. It was actually quite incredible.
It was so fucking good. She's just tearing into some gronk with a private account being like, listen, cunt, this is actually how it fucking works. Meanwhile, she's on stage looking staunch, leading parades. It's like, she can do it all.
If only these parasites knew that how grateful they should be. You are talking about an organiser of a rally that's repeatedly had hundreds of thousands of people, and this is value. They're right in the middle of that event. That's valuable time being spent on telling you off. They should pay money for that.
They should feel honoured.
So before we get sort of like too far along, Alex, like to set the stage, what we'll talk about eventually is that you went to photograph a what might be the single largest gathering of far-right neo-Nazi agitators the world has ever seen. This is like currently we are all actually living under siege. But before we get to that, did you get to any other parts of Invasion Day, like the rally, march, anything like that? Yeah.
Yeah, I left when they other event finished and made my way into the city and actually got to take interesting pictures and meet interesting people. So wasn't a complete waste of a day, but very nearly.
The shade again. I don't feel sorry for him.
So disappointing.
But I almost feel sorry because every time we talk about it, it's always this Eeyore fucking mopey, like, oh fuck, I feel like they've always got someone leaking information, or they've got a photojournalist being like, what a waste of my fucking time.
It really was so disappointing. I didn't even post the photos. I didn't put the photos anywhere because there was no story. There was nothing to talk about. It was like, it's funny. I'm glad that's what happened. But
all right, before we
bomber, dude.
I want to situate this by saying this is an event that several generations of figureheads of the far right, from the Nazis of late right back to the Patriot movement leaders like Blair Cottrell of the mid-2010s, had all colluded on. This is a Melbourne event that was meant to be a hide the Nazi credentials again, get everyone together for a flag-waving Australia Day event, that specifically addresses anti-immigration, mass deportation, nationalist issues, but just ever so slightly hides the Nazi credentials. And believe you me, they were all colluding as hard as they could. Blair Cottrell was trying to make a big deal of the fact that this is the first event that he had publicly endorsed since 2019. What a boon, to have an endorsement from such a salubrious figure. But I was worried because, the National Socialist Network have enjoyed non-stop access to the mainstream. Non-stop. They have huge platforms on decentralised communications platforms, yes, on the mainstream media every time they make the lead, which seems to be every fucking week. And on mainstream social media platforms again, now with the changes to Twitter, now X, they get to all talk and, they routinely pop on there and get a lot of followers very instantly. So they're in a better position communications-wise than they've ever been. And they all put in more effort than they've ever put in. And they came at a right time too, with the current wave of far-right sentiment sweeping the West. We'd every right to worry about what some of them, many of them, hoped would be a huge event. And there was every chance that it could have had thousands come along. And if it had have done, it would have been the opening bell for a new wave, certainly in the mainstream's eyes, and the documentation would then set the agenda for that, of populist nationalism, this time led by card-carrying Nazis. So that was what was on the table. That's what we were facing. So what did you see, Alex?
That shit sucked, dude. That was so lame. It's just a bomber, man. Maybe 70. I don't know. That was, you set the scene exactly right, Tom. They were really pushing this. And so I had been, getting ready for this for a while. And, I had people checking in on me like, are you okay? And I sent a video of old mate Matt up on stage talking about God knows what. And she was like, oh my God, imagine just the most beautiful day and you're just up there yapping. And I was like, I know this could have been an email. Could have been an email. Like, just the lamest shit, dude. So embarrassing.
Yeah. Fuck. So and because you were there on the ground, and I mean, nice. I'll ask a follow-up question of how close to them did you get? What was the actual activity? What goes into this sort of thing? But from your position, what were their vibes like? Were they chronically aware that they had a big stinker of an event, or were they oblivious?
That was something that I did find really interesting, was these kind of social dynamic of boredom, of this just not being. Yeah, exactly. No, I yeah, I think there was one point where Blair was speaking, and he like got the crowd to like, oi 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 back at him or whatever. And he was like, "Move it in, bring it in, guys." And I was up pretty close to him, and I was like, "Oh fuck, they're gonna come up from behind me." No one moved. Like he couldn't even get these 70 people to come up. No,
people didn't listen to Blair Cottrell.
They didn't move up. Yeah.
I don't know what everyone else's history with like small scale local metal and hardcore gigs is, but I've been a metal vocalist for a very long time, from like, as a teenager. And one of the things you do at the tiny gigs when you've only got 20, 30 of your mates is you start the set, the music starts, and you go, bring it in. And nothing feels more like a kick in the guts when no one fucking moves. And to hear at the big rally, the headline act couldn't get it in. I feel bad.
Yeah, it was a little bit devastating. Like, I don't no sympathy here, but I think it was really the fault of the way that event was structured was just Matt getting up and just going on and just going on and just going on about and also like not committing to the bit enough. Like he was saying like, 75 is where it went wrong. Kept coming back to 75. We know you're talking about the White Australia policy. Just say it.
Yeah,
couldn't do it.
He's a bore. He's a bore. Like, he's a boring person to listen to. Hey? Yeah.
Yeah, could have been an email, could have been a Telegram post. Like
but I'm interested in because Cottrell's used to, if you're a Nazi, like he does an important, he gets out there and talks about what the lifeblood of a nation. Did he talk about the lifeblood of a nation?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of lifeblood of the nation.
Yeah, the heart of the nation and that kind of thing. And usually the nationalists love that. You know what I mean? The flag wavers, they go, yeah, and he goes like that.
It's ironic to me that a group of ultra nationalists didn't think to factor in famous Australian apathy to their big event. Like that's because I didn't know the severity of the sort of promo and the push before this event, but I was always of the mind of just like, no, it's not going to be that big. Like, they're not going to be. Who's going to come? No one gives a shit. But like the fact that it could have been.
It's tough, Mitch, because it's like I don't want to talk like that beforehand. Yeah, I feel like I'm ostensibly helping them. So, you have that sort of like I want to document them, but I'm also feel that I'm their political opponent, anti-fascist. And so I don't want to sit there going, God, I'm really worried about this. They would love that. That'd get their little dicks hard. You know what I mean? They would love that shit. So you don't want to like help promote for them in that sense. But, obviously now that it's an abject failure, I can say, the way it played out, the way they put it all on paper and what have you, the promotion of it, and given how much they'd had the main big platform they'd had, I had every reason to worry, But again, like it was the moment I logged into a live stream and then I saw a little buggy, because it was close to the tennis, so buggy. And so some little buggy went right through the middle of the rally, and I just laughed, and I felt this big wave of relief.
It happened a couple of times where they were just like blocking this little like access thing, and they had to just like kind of slowly scooch out for like a little car to roll on by, and just a bummer. You
were saying that like you were that close that you thought that they were going to like surge up behind you or whatever. So what goes into sort of preparing for this sort of thing, and then when you're there, what do you do? How do you get access? How do you figure out sort of where to be, and what does that feel like?
Yeah. Well, I just put myself in these situations more than anything. But for this, so I got my start in photojournalism covering the anti-lockdown protests. And so I've spent a lot of time building rapport with some of these people. And so I always like make an effort to like, I know like V. I'm going to say hi to V. And that kind of affords me a little bit of protection. I was definitely getting some looks, as a visibly transgender woman. But there's just a few people that I know that I feel would protect me if people tried to kick off. There was a funny moment where there's what's his name? Shane Wicker, he does these like live stream videos at these kind of events. And I went up to say hi to him, and he was like, "Don't say hi to me." And I was like, "Oh." And he was like, "I saw what you put on Twitter." And I was like, "Wait, what did I put on Twitter?" And it was just I reposted a clip of one of his videos where he said, aides didn't do a good enough job or something. And I was like, what the hell? And so I got a message from you, Tom, is that he later went up to Blair and told on me.
Yeah, I was
Oh
was
my
concerned for you because the Blair and such of yesteryear, well, that might have spelled trouble, and yet you didn't encounter any trouble. Is that correct?
No, not particularly. That was the worst interaction I had, was him just being like, "Don't talk to me. I saw what you said." I was like, "Okay, all right."
You got pouting.
Yeah, it was a little bit of whining.
Yeah.
He just was just like shaking his head, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go hang out with V." Then, like, I don't know what to tell you.
Do you reckon part of that as well, like, I mean, I suppose it goes without saying, but like if they were fired up, if there was maybe more of them, it would have, you know, potentially been more of a threat to everyone in the area.
Could have been a real problem. Yeah.
But the fact that it was so sort of lackluster and a bit of a wet fart was just sort of like, oh, well, I don't like you, but.
Yeah. I was just trying to find like a shady place to stand. I was mostly texting my friend like throughout the event.
You're waiting for them to do something.
Yeah, I was waiting because they said like, oh, we're gonna like march, and then they just didn't, and it was like, okay.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Right.
I think what they did do was just go and combine with another sort of like, you know, anti-lockdown remnant sort of group of people who'd done another Australia Day type of event that was even larger than theirs.
It was.
Right. So this is sort of like Socialist Alliance, Socialist Alternative shit. Like there was just too small.
Yeah, but the other one was not organised by Nazis, just sort of like cookers, you know what I mean? And they got more than them, you know. So
it's not saying much.
Yeah, based on two different groups based on their ideological difference about Lenin. I'm pretty sure that.
Yeah. Well, so hang on. So it is. It's very similar.
That's the primary contradiction here.
So I can't decide, Alex. I ask you why you're here. Well, I can't decide. Is it the remnants of the anti-lockdowners knew they were Nazis? Because they've never been very good at that. Is it that they knew they were Nazis and decided to not attend? Is it that people don't actually want to attend weaponised, you know, far-right anti-immigration patriotism stuff on the day? Why? Or is it just their ineptitude? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think anyone cared. I don't think anyone cared about it. I think everyone had better stuff to do. And that was kind of my feeling was, why is anyone here? Why did they even get these many people?
Yeah, right.
I think no one could be arsed, honestly. And that's what it felt like. So I think, I don't think, because there were some people definitely who, you know, come from the anti-lockdown stuff and were there and didn't understand the Nazi stuff, like some older people especially. And I think they just kind of had a bummer of a time. And I think when these events are just kind of like a bummer, it's just Matt Trahey ranting up on stage. Well, yeah, go have a barbecue like on your day off. No one wants to do this.
It does seem like, some of the vibe was like usually really bad weather ruins attendance for rallies. But for ultra nationalists, really good weather on Invasion Day is like, that's going to make it a tough call. It's like, do I stay home, fire up the barbecue, sink some piss, or do I go and care about something? Fuck. The whole point is that I'm not supposed to care.
Tough call.
I want to get back to not. Yeah, right. And so from a photojournalist point of view, what? Because I just want to try and tease apart, because like there's the obvious, like when we see something salacious or exciting or dangerous sort of happening, you can imagine that a photojournalist would be having a field day. And then when people are just standing around, obviously they wouldn't be. But I'm assuming that that's not always correct. Sometimes there can be interesting little moments that happen in these small events. Sometimes big events are actually just sort of boring from a photojournalist point of view. So like what was missing from your very specific expertise? Why wasn't there any juice between any of their little interactions or anything going on?
Yeah, and you nailed it, Mitch, that, you know, sometimes small events, there is a lot of visual interest. There is a lot to talk about. This, just the lack of enthusiasm, everyone was milling around and no one had anything interesting. The only visual interest there was that there was like 20 flags. And I took pictures of flags and then I had to put my camera down and wait. And I thought maybe they're going to march, maybe they're going to do anything. nothing. And these people, are a bit suspicious of me as well. And so it's a bit hard to approach and be like, I don't know, posing someone up with like their like fist tattoos, right? Like I'm not going to particularly ask that of these people. It was just a void. It was really just a void. So,
Alex, did you get to go along afterwards then? I think you said you maybe went along you got to go afterwards and do more interesting stuff at Invasion Day.
That's right. Yeah. So when they said they were wrapping up, I was like, well, I'm going to make something of today. And then, I just made my way down. The rally had made it to Flinders Street Station, and it was already, I don't know, after 2 p.m., I think at that time. Rally started at 10. There were still thousands of people in the streets. There was life in that event, even all these hours later on a very hot day. And so, I think that was the story of the day, was that.
It's interesting because, we talked about it last week with Celeste of like, we can't tell autonomous blocks what to do. That's the whole thing. So if you really want to go down and protest the far right neo-Nazi rally, go with God, whatever, we can't stop it. But the recommendation is get to the Invasion Day rally. That's the big one. That's the focal point. It's going to be, it's for a better reason. It's going to feel better, the whole sort of thing. And it feels like that was like a vibe everywhere. And like it comes across visually, comes across in the people, comes across at the disappointing nature of what they were also fucking doing. Like that the day seems to have culturally shifted.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
I had a lot of people online going to me afterwards going, because I was saying basically this. I was saying it was a big failure, haha. And people were going to me, well, don't you know, I went to my party at my house and everyone had flags there. And I was trying to say to some of these people, I know that lots of Australians went to barbecues. I'm not ignorant to that fact. I live in southeast Queensland. You think every motherfucker outside didn't do that shit? I could see that, on my way to and from a fucking Invasion Day event, as you fucking do when you're normal. I could see that. I'm aware. I grew up in this fucking country. No, what we're talking about is the profound failure of turning that soft, muddle-headed patriotism into weaponized hard right, anti-immigration, mass deportations, essentially National Socialist politics, That's what that event was so interesting for. And the fact that it was so fucking boring.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it was crossing my mind. From my accent, you can tell I'm from the United States, and it was really crossing my mind the whole time of how much my little Midwestern hometown's 4th of July was like dunking on this. There's no enthusiasm. They can't turn this into, turn what their Australia Day is into a political movement. They don't have the juice.
Yeah. I mean, I think it bodes well.
It bodes well.
I mean, like for with Dutton and everyone else too, of just like there is, like I've said, the Australian apathy that just courses through so much of what so many people do needs to be factored in.
I had a couple questions for you. I wanted to know if there was any point where you felt like unsafe in that, witnessing that or being close to it.
To a degree. Right, when I first saw them like coming up, and I recognized some people like Neil Erickson, who I haven't seen since 2021. When they were marching up, and then they just kind of like, walked on by, and I was like, okay. And then when I was there, like they had some security guards who were like, really staring me down. But it just, no, I didn't feel particularly unsafe. There were cops. There were other media. There were people watching from across the street who were definitely keeping an eye on the situation. And I think they wanted, certainly the people who were giving me those looks, to intimidate me, but I just couldn't be arsed.
Yeah. It's embarrassing at that point.
Yeah, Alex, you've been attacked. You've been physically attacked for your work
exactly.
before, I recall.
So many times. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, heavy looks probably don't, deter you too much at this stage. Yeah.
Exactly. No, I was fully prepared for that today. And no, not.
That's fascinating. And also, I had one other question, just for listeners who might not be aware of you. We'll put some links and everything to your stuff in the show notes and everything. But do you want to talk about what your politics are by any chance, or you don't have to if that's going to implicate you as a journalist somehow?
I certainly approach everything from certainly with my work in photojournalism. I try to be as neutral, and I know that's not a real thing. That's not possible. But I'm not going to, pretend that it's not the decent human thing to do, to be anti-authoritarian, to be anti-racist, to be anti-fascist in how you're covering things. And that's how I approach my work. In my personal life, I think I would, I stay true to my own personal morals in my reporting as best as is possible. I don't know if that's a good answer.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
So you mentioned you've been attacked doing this.
Oh yeah.
I think one time I can't remember exactly which one it was, but I'm pretty sure you copped a face full of police bear mace. Went to street
wearing this dress. Yes.
Went to street medics, got it cleared off, and went back to fucking taking photos. It was one of the staunchest things I've ever fucking seen.
Thanks, mate.
So, with all of that, what drives you to keep doing it?
I think it's really important to have good people on the ground covering things as close to reality and as honestly as possible. And I think the media in this country and in my home country are kind of notorious for failing to do that. And so I want to be, even if it's just as a freelance photographer, I think I can do the work really well. And I think we need good people doing that. So that's what I try to be.
Fuck yeah. High-minded ideals of the best. Yeah. That's the fucking best.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Where would you like people to check out your work, support you, and anything to plug, anything at all?
Anything at all. You can check out my work on Instagram at Zucco.alex. That is ZUCCO.alex. Twitter's the same, but with an underscore. I don't know. That's about it.
Yeah. And if we've got actual publications and places that can actually use photos and pay decently for photos, hit Alex up. The shots are sick.
Please do. Thank you.
Yeah. And you're not just going into dangerous places. You're also bothering to frame photos really well, and the post edit looks really good. I need to stress, it's not you don't just get down there with a camera and you're not just getting in their faces or taking funny selfies. It's such good work.
Oh my god.
That I people actually hit Alex up to do some proper work.
Please.
You should get paid
Thank
for
you.
it.
Fabulous.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. This has been wonderful.
Fucking let's go. All right. I want to talk about my special interest now, which is rentals and landlords and real estate agents. And a good friend of the pod, Jim Marlowe, has just dropped a story today about the ATO doing what is effectively a robo-debt situation, but to landlords this time instead of people experiencing poverty, which is a nice change. And it's not actually a robo-debt. It's they have the actual incomes of these people. They're not just making them up so that they can, send them into a literal death spiral in some instances. But we won't go into that. So pretty much a couple of years ago, the ATO did some investigation and found that 90% of landlords, 9 out of 10 landlords, were falsely declaring the amount of income that they were earning from their investment properties.
That's so many.
It's most of them, in fact.
That's so fucking many. That should be the fucking headline. 9 out of 10 landlords found to have erroneously filed tax returns for years. That's always so far down in all of these articles. That's mental.
Yep. You know that phrase, not all landlords, it's literally 90% of them. So
90% of landlords.
All of them.
What is it they're specifically misreporting? What's the problem?
So So it's a variety of things. So for example, the ATO recently, like a few years ago, got access to the bond data from each of the states and territories, which shows either they haven't lodged a bond or they have lodged a bond and they're underreporting, the amount of rental income that they're getting from that particular place. So it can be anything. Like they're either breaking a Residential Tenancies Act or they're breaking some tax law somewhere. And now also, so they have a data sharing arrangement. So it goes both ways. So the various regulators for rentals also have access to the ATO data, so they can see if a landlord has claimed some negative gearing amount for a repair that was never done, for example, for a rental property. But yeah, anyways, the estimated value that is owed to the I guess the Commonwealth is $1.2 billion.
Kidding me.
Which is wild. Like, that's an insane amount of money. Like, we could do quite a lot of things with $1.2 billion.
These people are parasites.
They're evil. That's including, all of the various incredibly generous trillions of dollars in tax subsidies that we've given them for, whatever that...
Like that's not counting the negative gearing shit. That's not counting all the concessions. That's not counting, I mean, a lot of them with the capital gains tax, all the rest of that sort of shit. Like, this is the malfeasance.
This is after that. This is on top of that.
On top of all of that shit, they then go, let's not report tax properly. Fucking cunts, man.
Yeah. 90% of them. It is genuinely insane. But the good news is, because they've had this data for quite some time now. Like, this isn't a new thing. This has been a few years. And I've spoken to a few of the, for example, the New South Wales Rental Commissioner. I've spoken with Consumer Affairs here in Victoria, and they have all started their data matching processes. So they're looking into the bond data. They're looking for landlords who haven't been declaring bonds, and patterns emerge eventually.
So when you're saying as well, they're doing a robo-debt thing. For clarity, like, what's going on is that they've got this data and now they're just auto-matching it and seeing if anything egregious flags up. And somehow they're managing to find some landlords that haven't been paying tax. It's because it's fucking 90% of them. Sorry. So it's an automated process that's going through. It's the data matching sort of stuff that sort of just goes, that seems pretty incongruent. Let's look at this.
Pretty much. Like, the difference obviously between robo-debt is, robo-debt, you declared a fortnightly income, and if that wasn't the same as your previous income, pretty much what robo-debt, the OCI, whatever the hell the actual name is, would extrapolate the highest amount over 52 fortnights or 52 weeks or whatever it is, and then assume that you were earning that the whole year, and then give you a debt based on money that you had never earned. Exactly. But what this is doing is it actually has the actual amount of your income from yourself, your rental property. It's got access to all your bank accounts and everything, and then goes and says, well, you only declared this much last year, but now I have access to everything. And I have had for a few years, and I've still done nothing about it. Actually, might I just add? And now I'm going to, give you a tax bill. The interesting thing for me about all of this in particular is if I was the government and I was trying to show that I was doing something for renters, even if I didn't do anything, even if the tax office has been able to do this for years, which it has, I would be hammering the hell out of this point that, hey, we're going to start taxing landlords heavily, like they do whenever there's an interest rate cut, for example. They have no involvement in that interest rate cut, but they're like, we're claiming this. This is what the Labor government has done. This is something that the government has done regardless of the government of the day, and Labor hasn't jumped on to this like it's a massive win, and that's because they know that they will upset their base of land hoarders, which I find this is a massive win.
Jordan, I'm going to go a step further, though, and I'm going to say that there is a reason why they're not, another reason, you're right, There's another reason why they're not promoting this, though, I feel. And it's to do with it's similar reasons of why that stat we mentioned earlier is usually so far down in a story. It's because so many of the fucking politicians in this country are landlords, and you cannot fucking convince me that every single one of those evil cunts in Parliament falls into the 10% of people that were claiming tax properly. Sorry, when you've got fucking Stuart Robert claiming, what was it, thousands of dollars in internet bills because he didn't go on a plan. He kept topping up his fucking, his internet by $15 increments to the tune of thousands of dollars, and then went, oh, sorry, I didn't notice, I'll pay it back. You want to tell me that all of them are paying their tax properly? Fucking no. They don't want to push this because it's a very easy fucking story for people like us to go, 90% of landlords aren't claiming tax properly, and most of the politicians are landlords, so are the politicians fucking double dipping? With all of the concessions those cunts get, are they double dipping on tax as well? I wonder. Maybe we should look into it. No, we can't look into it. Can't do that. Let's just get a nice little fluffy story about how we're doing some tax stuff and move on, please. Thank you, please.
Exactly. Statistically, the way that, stats work generally is that if there are 90% of landlords doing illegal things and you're a politician and you're a landlord, you have a 90% chance of being that landlord doing the wrong thing. And that's most of them. So yeah, they're in trouble. And I'm excited for this. I'm excited to see what happens here.
The thing for me as well, and like we've alluded to robo-debt quite specifically here too. One of the things I read in Jim's article actually, which did shit me, which is that the ATO coming out, with the passive aggressive bureaucrat speak of like, hey, we're going to be looking at this, we're going to be matching data, we're going to be doing all these things. The very bottom of the article talks about like, if you think there might have been mistakes or discrepancies, if maybe there was a whoopsie, get in touch with us now. Get an expert, go over your finances, get in touch with us now. And just pay what you owe. And there'll be no interest. There'll be no fines.
No penalties.
If you pay it before we contact you, wink, wink, we're going to be contacting you soon, wink, wink. If you pay it before that, no harm, no foul. And like, where was that grace extended to the victims of fucking robo-debt? Like, I understand that we live in a nation of landlords with rules written by landlords for landlords. That's what capitalism is. That's what neoliberalism has accelerated. That's what Western democracies fucking are. It's the whole thing. But that really fucking got to me because like, I know people in my life, very close to me, were worried about going overseas to see family while the robo-debt thing was on because they didn't know what was going on. People fucking killed themselves with that shit because there was this threat of like, wow, you've got this debt. We don't know what it is. You pay us. We're not going to look into it. And then these cunts that by definition own investment properties, own other rentals besides the home that they live in, get this fucking olive branch of like, hey, it's all good. Hey, have you been rorting us for 7 years with the thinnest veneer of plausible deniability? Well, don't worry about it. Just pay the little bit of a bill now. No, fuck them. Massive fines, no leniency, up against the fucking wall. Like, sorry, what democracy, what justice do we have if your income dictates the level of justice bestowed upon you? I'm an abolitionist, for sure. Don't like cops, don't want prisons. But while we have the fucking system in place, some decorum and fairness, please.
Yeah. And that, like, if we're comparing them as well, if we look at the legalities of the actual, debts that are owed versus the leniency given to these people, robo-debt wasn't even legal and there was no leniency. There's tax fraud. We have one of the most quite impressive tax systems in the world. Like other governments, other countries come to the Australian Tax Office for advice to see how they can chase up debts or how they can investigate debts. And we've known this has been going on for a very long time. That's objectively illegal, but no, that's just a regular white-collar crime. And we'll just afford them some grace, I think.
This is the shit that I saw as well. Like it's far afield, but I think it speaks to my whole rambly point about the system we're in. But I forget the names. Fuck 'em, who gives a shit? But the you know how PwC, the consultancy firm, were basically like giving tax secrets. So there's a connection. Tax. They were giving tax secrets to corporations before it was public, helping them sort of like rewrite their rules to save money, blah, blah, blah. And then that was found out. And so the government had to tear up all these contracts with PwC. Been revealed in the Klaxon, just today, I saw it at least, that the guy who was the head of PwC at that time left and went somewhere else and started a new company or started heading up.
Probably to Cordamentha. A bunch of them went to Cordamentha.
But that guy that was the head of PwC, one of the heads of PwC during that rort, went to somewhere else. And when the government tore up the PwC contracts, they sent him to that other guy. They sent it to that guy again. They tore up the contracts from PwC because they said your company had some tax problems. But the human beings responsible for it, we can trust them with the contracts we're taking away from PwC now. Like that's not justice. He's in more hot water now, this guy. At least I read in this Klaxon article, because of like a lewd photo scandal. Which is incredible. Like he should also be socially raked over the coals for that 100%. I'm not downplaying that. But just the fact that there is no parity, again, with this idea of justice between it, that you can fail upwards even if you cheat the government, and you can have your debt sort of repaid back if you're a landlord, no harm, no foul. But God help you if you're fucking poor. Oh, you're a bastard if you're poor. Boot into these.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. All of this stuff was making me read up about the. Do you remember when the Liberals proposed to drug test welfare recipients in this country?
Fuck, I do remember that.
I was like, that made me so mad after just reading this. You know, like 9 out of 10 landlords doing this stuff, and yes, the PwC shit. Just like these people. Experiencing leniency that should be, if they're experiencing it, it should be afforded to everyone, but it's not.
I got a listener question here. Someone asks us, "Hi, I know you guys are mostly East Coast based, but I was wondering if you have any recommendations for anti-fascist groups, left-wing independents, etc. in Western Australia that we could help out." Matt. Listen, mate, first of all, when you say we, I'm encouraged by that because it suggests that there's more than one here. And you have the seed of a collective right there. You may be me as in one or two people. But I think as long as there's more than one of you, you've got the seed of a local autonomous collective right there. Now, that might not be enough to get out there and do boots on ground shit with fascists and such, because you did mention anti-fascism after all. But what I want to tell you beyond that is that, look, right now, with things as they are on the left, unfortunately, we don't have the left-wing equivalent of like an NSN contact bot where you can sort of file an application to be, an application form to go and then meet people and join in on groups. But the decentralized and autonomous nature of anti-fascist collectives is a means that you should be part of activist scenes and be an active contributor to those, and just basically get to know all the names and faces and get to know the lay of the land on the left anyway. That's a strength, actually, because it prevents us from being infiltrated by fuckwits. It helps you to, as I say, know the lay of the land before you get in there and go and do some, maybe more hardline stuff. And it lets you marinate in these scenes, lets you marinate in the politics, get to know the people and find out the people whose politics you most resonate with. And through that, you will accumulate, this is the way the plan goes ideally, you will accumulate the beginnings of an autonomous collective of your own. That's the anarchist in me, I suppose, from an organisational level speaking. But I do want to say I know of anti-fascist collectives that exist in Perth, in Western Australia. Mitch said to me earlier he knows boots on ground type unionist greens and that kind of thing, also willing to get shit done. The people are there. I don't have an application form for you to fill or group names per se. Get involved in activism and the names will come to you, is my suggestion. Feel free to hit me up if you have further more specific questions as well, Matt. This is just me, actually. Now everyone else has left. It's just me. They're leaving me to turn the lights off, dust the room up all on my own. So I want to thank everyone for coming onto this episode. Thanks to none of my co-hosts for abandoning me for getting to this point. Thank you only to my listeners who stuck with me longer than my traitor co-hosts ever could. Goodbye.
Hey everyone, Mitch from the future here, just getting in early, opening up the shop, and no, look at that, Taniki's forgotten to give you the email. If you have an email that you want to send to us, alpdotgov@proton.me, that's if you've got a question you want us to read out, if you have a clarification for something we said. If on the off chance you have a correction, which I doubt you will have, please send it through to us, alpdotgov@proton.me. We'd love to hear from you.